Thank you for joining in on another session. Today I'm going to talk about how to maximize PhD meeting outcomes with your supervisor. As a PhD scholar, you should regularly have meetings with your supervisor. But one thing that I see a lot of students do not do very well is to prepare for the meeting in advance and to take active actions during the meeting and post the meeting after the meeting. So in today's session, I'm going to cover all that so that you can start following a proper guide or a template when preparing for your meeting and when going in a meeting to meet your supervisor. Over the last 21 days, I've been regularly doing one video or one webinar each on various topics related to research. So do check out all these other topics which are very important for you if you are pursuing your PhD or postdoc. So these are some of the videos that I did earlier on various aspects of research, including industry research, research methodologies, research proposal, and so on. So all these are short, like 20-25 minute long videos. Some are a little bit longer, but all of them are very useful if you are pursuing your research degree. All right, all these videos are there available on my YouTube website. So please follow and subscribe my channel and like all the videos that I make. All right, let's get started today. Meeting your supervisor. What is it that you need to do? So first thing is you want to make sure that you maximize the meeting outcomes for your meeting, because the time that you spend with your supervisor may have limited time because they have other duties as well. They may have other PhD students, or they may have teaching, or they may have research projects. They may have some administration work. So their time is important, and you have to be be mindful of that and be well prepared when you go for a meeting. So when you want to meet, have a clear agenda. Define the objectives of the meeting. What is it that you want to achieve from this meeting? Make a list of those things. And once you have done that, prioritize agenda items by importance and urgency. So if you think that you have identified a lot of things, and this maybe half an hour meeting or 1 hour meeting that you may have with your supervisor, if it is not sufficient to cover all, it is a good practice to prioritize. If there are 10 items, prioritize it based upon the most important. It will be the first item, and the next important will be second, and so on. So at least you get to discuss and resolve those most pressing and important challenges that you're facing, or that you want to basically want some feedback on. Effective communication. So what thing you can do is you can also prepare some key talking points. What is it that you're going to discuss, and maybe rehearse that as well. Practice talking to your practice your meeting. Maybe in the first few meetings you may need to do this, but afterwards you will probably be comfortable going into a meeting with just the agenda. But in the first few meetings, or maybe in the first 6 months of your research, it would be good to have effective communication. Build up your communication skills. Try to explain what you're trying to understand, or want some feedback from your supervisor. So don't fumble during the meeting. But if you prepare your talking points, you will also not miss out on any things that may be necessary to discuss. Next thing is key discussion points. Identify critical topics, list essential items for discussion, and highlight recent findings or progress. So this is something that you are now preparing to tell your supervisor that this is what I have done. These are the things that I want to discuss. And the discussion items could be either a yes, no kind of thing. Should I do this or should I not? Or should I apply for something, or should I read this paper? So that kind of questions, it could be the items for your discussion. Or you could also mention what you have found. If you found something interesting during this week, or if you meet fortnightly, then you could say, over this last 2 weeks, I have found this, or I have found that. I found this was interesting study. The results from this are very promising. Maybe we can discuss this, or some things like that. You can also detail or list any challenges that you encountered after the last meeting. So maybe if the meeting was a week before, what did you do this week, and what challenges did you encounter? And for those challenges, what do you think you could do to solve it. So also go with some suggested solutions. Don't just go with problems, but you have to prepare some solution for it, or maybe a few solutions, and you can ask, this is a problem, these are the three ways I think we can solve this problem. What do you think? What would you suggest me? Yeah, so that is being well prepared for the meeting, rather than I'm stuck here, this is the problem. That doesn't show your preparation, your thinking, your critical evaluation skills, for that matter, right? As the researcher, your primary goal or objective is to be able to solve problems. Yeah, that is the training that you're getting in your PhD, right? So if you identify challenges, explore how it can be solved. Or you may not know what will be the best way to solve, but at least you have given a thought of what are the different ways in which this could be solved. Yeah, so do that, and that will also be very impressive for the when you show that to your supervisor. Next is seeking advice and assistance. So identify areas where you need some guidance and formulate questions to ask for clarity. So these two things are very important. Whenever you need feedback, sometimes what happens is you go into a meeting and you start discussing something, and after the meeting you realize that, oh, I wanted to ask this, and then you miss out. So if you have prepared the meeting, prepared the meeting and discussion points clearly, you will have made a note that this is what I want to ask for my supervisor, from my supervisor. This is the feedback that I need, this is where I need some guidance. So have that properly, and at the end of the video I will also show you a template that you can use for the when you meet with your supervisors. Explore resources. You can ask your supervisor about any additional resources that you should be looking at when you are pursuing your research or conducting whatever task that they may have asked you to do. So that is also very useful. Ask them whether you should be going for some networking sessions to build up your networking, build up your network within the field, or ask for resources or assistance from experts from your area. So keep that also in as one of the agenda items during your meetings. Next is addressing challenges. When you have identified some challenge, your present problems in your research, you can analyze obstacles, right? And present what problems you have identified or faced while doing your research. And this record keeping is very important later down the track as well, because when you want to reflect on some of the decisions that you may have taken, you may not remember why you decided to do this or why you decided to do that. At that time, if you reflect back and go to your meeting notes, you will realize that, oh, I think we discussed this and this in the meeting, which is why we decided to take this approach. When you're analyzing obstacles or exploring solutions, also explore the implications and possible contingencies. The next thing that you can do during your discussion in your PhD with your PhD supervisor is to seek continuous feedback. And what you can do here is ask your supervisor to provide some suggestions or criticize your work. I think it is very important. And when you receive your supervisor's feedback, take it on a positive front. They are trying to help you, and sometimes they may be critical about your work, and you have to understand that they are more experienced than you, and when they spot a mistake or spot a mistake that you have done, they may provide you some constructive feedback on how you can improve the research that you are doing. The next thing is also to discuss the feasibility of proposed solutions. So if you come up with an idea, come up with a solution, get feedback from them and ask them whether it is feasible or not. If your supervisor has supervised several PhD students in the past, they would have experience and they would have seen things which may be possible and things which may be difficult to achieve in a given time frame. So respect their experience, and if they provide you some feedback like that, which may feel at that time that, oh no, this is not what I was expecting, take your time, listen to it. Don't just argue or confront them. Listen to their side of story, gather, basically leverage on their experience, and maybe make a note and take your time. If you still think that this could be feasible, make a proper case in your next meeting saying that I took your feedback, I looked at what you suggested, you pointed out that this proposed approach will not be feasible because of these 2-3 things that you mentioned. I have taken time to reflect on that, and I think you are right. These of the 3 things, the one thing is probably very difficult to do, but I have thought about it over the last 2 weeks, and I think this point 1 and point 2 can be addressed in this way. What do you think about that? Yeah, so take that approach, and in the next meeting you can further continue the discussion. Introducing new ideas. So this is where you discuss new approaches or methodologies, or discuss its applicability and potential impact. So during the course of your research, you may be developing or creating multiple innovations, right? This could be a new algorithm that you design, maybe a new hypothesis that you want to test, or it would be the interviews that you have done for your qualitative study. It could be anything. There could be a lot many things that you can do during your research, and this is where you get some new ideas, new approaches. You can think about, oh, I could solve this problem in this way or that way, so all these things are actually showcase your creative thinking, and which is very good. But what you should also do is take feedback from your supervisor or your co-supervisor, and let them also think about the suggested new approach that you are thinking, and get their feedback, and collectively you can come up with something even more better. You never know, so that discussion is very important. Next is keep a feedback loop. So establish a method for continuous feedback and plan follow up on discussed ideas. So if you discuss something in this meeting, give it in the next meeting, you can again revisit that discussion, that innovation or the idea that you raised. And like I said previously, that if you when your supervisor gives you some feedback, take it positively and think about it, and see, give it some time, maybe 1 week, 2 week, and reflect upon that, whether this is the right approach to do, or if your supervisor has suggested something else, take inputs of that as well, because they are more experienced, right? And then they are there just for that purpose, to guide you, because you have not gone on that path of pursuing your PhD before, but they have guided many PhD students in the past. So they have seen what are the things that work, what don't work. So best thing is to leverage their experience as much as possible, and then on top of it, add your creativity. Next is professional preparation. This is important, and I think it is also useful for you when you start working after your PhD. So professionalism in communication is very important. And one thing that you can do is to create an agenda for your meeting, which I mentioned earlier in the points of this session. Not only prepare that, but distribute that agenda in advance. So it gives your supervisor some time to think about what you are going to discuss, what you are planning to discuss in the meeting. And if you have any material that you can send with the agenda, that is even better. For example, you could say, I want to discuss this paper. There is this model that they have discussed here, which I think applies to what we are trying to do. And we can approach, or we can improve this model in this way. So I would like to discuss this, and hence I have added this in the agenda. Another thing could be, I want to apply for attending a conference, and the internal deadline for submission of application within the university is in 2 weeks, and I would like your feedback on this. Or if there is an application form that has to be filled, you can say, I have filled up the application form, I need you to review it and sign it. So be prepared like that, and send that thing in advance. Confirm time allocations Confirm topics and time allocations with your supervisor. So if you have 10 things to discuss, and if it is a 1 hour meeting, you can roughly put like 6 minutes per item. Yeah, if you finish something earlier, that is well and good. But at least keep in mind that if you want to get through all these 10 items, you have to be mindful of the time as well. Allocate time wisely for each agenda item. Ensure prompt start and end times for the meeting. So once you start following a proper plan, you will see that, okay. And when you go, what I suggest is, depending upon how you take notes. So either if you're taking it digitally on your laptop, or if you have printed this agenda and making notes on printed paper, whatever you do, make sure that you start ticking, okay, this item has been done, this is done, this is done, this is done. And any feedback you receive from the supervisor for any item, just record it there. Alternatively, you can ask permission from your supervisor to record this meeting as a voice recording. So you have the points that your supervisor has discussed for each of these items, and then you can later go back and use any sound voice to text converter software. There are many available these days, and convert that to text. So all the meeting content is there for you, so that you don't miss out on anything. Sometimes what happens is, when you're trying to write something, you cannot write everything, whatever your supervisor tells you. But what you could do is, if you have the voice to text software, you can convert all that, and then you have everything on record. So there is nothing missed out from that meeting. And this is a very good way to ensure a very productive meeting. Otherwise, you spend time making notes, which could be otherwise used for discussion, which would be more useful. Effective follow-up. Document the decisions you have taken and the tasks that were assigned. So any items that you have listed, wherever you need to make a decision, make a note that, okay, we decided to do this, we will do this, we will fill up the application next week, we will submit the paper for this journal. Whatever you have discussion resulted in the discussion, make sure that you make a note. It is helpful later in the future as well. And set deadlines for follow-up action. So if you have to fill up something and send it to your supervisor for review, then make a note that I will do this in the next 2 days and send it to you, and get confirmation from your supervisor that whether it is okay, or whether he or she is busy, and how long would they take to get back to you. So take these things keep these things in mind. Agree on milestones for the next meeting, and discuss interim check-ins if necessary. So every meeting has a few components, right? One is what you are asked to do in the previous meeting. So you are going to respond to that. So I was told to do these 5 things that I have done. While doing these 5 things, I encountered these problems. Some of them were okay, I completed without any issue, and some I need further discussion to continue. So tracking progress that way is very important. So agree upon the milestones for the next meeting. That is, in the next meeting, we are going to, you have to complete these another 5 things, right? And in between your current meeting and the next meeting, if you are stuck somewhere, you can ask whether you can email and ask for some clarification. The next point is continuous improvement. So here you need to evaluate the effectiveness of your meetings regularly, and to see whether the strategies that you have adopted, whether they work properly or not, or if you need to change something. So that reflection is very important, because the more you reflect upon your outcomes of the meeting, the more you will be better at conducting the meeting, or coordinating or managing the meeting, and that's where you can get the best results out of your meeting. Maybe initially you probably need one 1 hour meeting, but as you progress, you realize, and this is kind of a skill, right? You build up your skill. So skill of conducting or organizing meetings, and effectively progressing through the meeting and finishing. So that is a very important skill that you can develop. You can also work on your communication and presentation skills, right? When you are communicating, like the agenda I told you, you should distribute the agenda in advance. So this is a form of communication that you are doing with your supervisor. So you can improve upon how these things can be improved, and you can also seek some feedback on your performance, how well you did with the meeting? What does your supervisor think? Do they have any suggestion for you to improve, and so on? Okay, so all the points that I have discussed are there in this meeting template. You can see what are the meeting objectives, the agenda items, and so on and so forth. You can either have it in a document, in a Word document like this, or you could put it in Excel, or you could have it as a in any task management software that you may be using. But make sure that you keep a good record of the meetings. If you want to do a voice recording of the meeting, I use, there are many softwares, but I have access to Potdar. It's a very good tool where you can record the sound and then it converts to text. And it also identifies different voices. So it will say speaker 1 and speaker 2. So if there are 2 people in the meeting, it will distinguish that this is by person 1, this is by person 2. So you can easily identify which part your supervisor is speaking and which part you have spoken. So that way it is easier to also get the relevant content from the meeting and start documenting. Okay, and once this is all done, once the meeting is finished, you come back and you reflect upon how the meeting went. Is there anything that you can improve in the next meeting? And also, it's also good practice that once you have finished the meeting, make notes, and then you can send an email to your supervisor saying that this was our meeting, this is what we discussed, and I'm sending you this for your records. So it is also convenient for the supervisor to have a record of all the meetings that they have with their students. Okay, so that is all in today's session. I hope this will be very useful and something that you can apply right away. And if you have if you have any other topics that you would like me to talk about, please let me know and leave a comment or send me a message. All right, that's all in today's session. Thank you very much and have a great weekend. Bye.